and welcome to our visit to the historic city of Salisbury in Wiltshire. We're in the south of England, and this is the second destination of our Wells and Salisbury road trip. I'll pop the Wells video up at the end. As I said, Salisbury is a city, but not a particularly large one, as you'll see. And without doubt you'll head to Salisbury's magnificent cathedral, where you can see one of the original surviving copies of the Magna Carta. There's no photography or video, but you'll get to see the chapter house where it's kept. But don't worry, we'll be seeing plenty more of Salisbury as we explore. And we're going to start by driving into the west along Cranebridge Road, where we're crossing the River Avon. Rest assured we'll be back here later. I'm including this little bit of footage so you get an idea of the scale of the city, plus a feel for it as we head to our accommodation, the Mercure White Hart. I'll pop the details in the corner with our booking.com link, as well as in the description below with the what 3 words location for the car park entrance that's on another street. In fact, the description will include links to all the places I mentioned in the video. I also want to mention that at the time of recording, and that's July 2024, this is not a car unfriendly city. Some places such as Oxford really don't want cars in the city centre, so make it very difficult. And larger cities such as London, Birmingham and Manchester, well, let's say best of luck. I'll soon be parked up, so now I can mention the Good Beer Guide. The observant amongst you may have noticed we pass an alehouse or two, and to help you in any part of the UK, I would heartily recommend the Good Beer Guide for local breweries and traditional pubs, for the when in Rome sort of beer drinker. Now we've sneaked up on the Mercure White Hart on the right, but we're going to pass it to make our way to the car park. I should also mention that Salisbury has a mainline railway station, a 15-minute walk or 5-minute cab ride from the centre. Salisbury is also served by National Express coaches as another cost-effective way of visiting the city. So we're shortly going to arrive at the hotel's car park, Nurse Intelligible Banks, if you're a What 3 Words fan. And I hope by including this footage it has given you a bit more of an insight into the city of Salisbury. Let me know in the comments below if you approve. Now let's start at Salisbury proper, starting at the Mercure White Hart. We had a relaxing time here, so we'd recommend it. So we're going to head up to Guildhall Square, where unsurprisingly you'll find the Guildhall and the city's Central War Memorial. Originally built in 1795 and rebuilt in 1829, housing a courtroom and cells amongst other things. Now it's a council-owned venue popular for weddings, meetings and a variety of other events. Next to the Guildhall Square we have the Market Square. On Tuesdays and Saturdays the Charter Market is in town. The rest of the time you have to make do with shops, pubs, restaurants and cafes that line 2 sides of it. As we head the short distance to the Poultry Cross, you can see we're blessed with some typical English summer weather. Anyway, the Poultry Cross was one of 4 original market crosses, and now the only one remaining. It was originally constructed in the 14th century and modified in the 18th and 19th centuries. Close by you'll find the Wiltshire Venison pub, originally built as a home in the mid-15th century and modified in the 18th. It's worth popping into to catch the interior. Now we're off for a little stroll to discover one of Salisbury's 3 rivers, the Avon. For reference, the other 2 are the Nader and the Bourne. We're going to follow a small section of it from the Maltings around to the bridge we crossed on our arrival in Salisbury. The Avon will lead out to Bath, under the amazing Pulteney Bridge and over the Weir before heading on to feed Bristol. You can find our visit to those 2 cities on the channel too. I suppose now's the time to mention if you're enjoying this video, then click on that like. And if you enjoy our style of video, then why not subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future travels. We're now going to head 150 metres along Crane Street until we turn into the High Street to pass under the High Street Gate. This is one of the 4 medieval city gates, the others being St Anne's, Harnham and the Bishopsgate, which we'll catch a little later. This entrance leads us to Cathedral Close and the Cloisters Green. Around the green you'll catch some desirable houses of differing styles, all with a view of Salisbury Cathedral. There's the Rifles, Berkshire and Wiltshire Museum in one, Arundel's, the home of former Prime Minister Ted Heath, another, and one we're interested in, the National Trust's Mompesson House, another. Let's take a look inside. What we have here is an 18th century townhouse built in 1701 for Charles Mompesson, replacing an existing building on land leased from the church. He and his wife were the first occupants until he sadly passed away in 1714. It passed through many families until Dennis Martineau purchased it in 1952 from the church commissioners on the condition that, on his death, it be left to the National Trust. Dennis passed away in 1975. Each successive owner left the house unfurnished, so what the National Trust has done is to refurbish it with period pieces. I believe for 2025 the house is being redressed for the Regency era, when the Portman family lived at Mompesson. Check out the National Trust website for more information. It's certainly a house of a period. There's a feel of Bridgerton about it, although Mompesson House was only featured in the 1995 film of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. Even though the furniture is not original, it is a beautifully curated collection of pieces. Okay, it's time for a little break from my tones. I'll return when we arrive at the garden. Okay, I'm back, and we're in the relatively small garden of Mompesson House. But as always, the National Trust have done a fantastic job in creating a garden that suits a traditional townhouse of the period. As you've come to expect, there is a tea room in the former summer house. You can sit inside and look through the beautiful French windows, or take a table outside and enjoy the birdsong. There is also the usual second-hand bookstore and a gift shop. So if you like a little history and culture, then add Mompesson House to your itinerary. We'll grab one final look around before we head back outside and dig a little deeper into the history of Salisbury. So we've arrived in front of Salisbury Cathedral, and doesn't she look magnificent? Strictly speaking, we're in New Sarum, with Old Sarum being the original settlement. The cathedral that was the heart of New Sarum was built over 38 years between 1220 and 1258. The now ruined ancient city of Old Sarum is a couple of miles north of here, once home to an ancient hilltop castle and cathedral, and close to the Neolithic sites of Stonehenge and Avebury. Its history dates back thousands of years, but was settled by the Romans, Anglo-Saxons and early Normans. So the Salisbury we're looking at today is relatively modern. New Sarum was given a royal charter in 1227, so we're closing in on 800 years of city status. I'll produce a full-length look at the cathedral, but for now let's take a quick step inside and see the highlights. The first thing that catches your eye is the view along the nave, and this is a fine example of early English Gothic design. As you would expect, there have been many alterations over the 750-year plus history since it was consecrated, Some of them are difficult to spot, others more striking, such as the font by William Pye, installed in 2008. It has become a bit of a focal point for visitors to the cathedral. One section that I'm normally drawn to is the choir, and if I'm lucky, the sound of the organ. It is the perfect instrument to fill the space around you. And then there's the stained glass. I think my favourite has to be the ones in the Lady Chapel. In the full video we'll discover a lot more detail, including the oldest clock. But I promised the Magna Carta, so it's to the chapter house. Actually, I can't show you the Magna Carta or Great Charter because, unsurprisingly, there's no video or photography allowed, and you have to step into a little tent to see one of the 4 exemplifications of the Magna Carta from 1215. It's now time to step outside onto the cloister's green because I have a few more things to show you around Salisbury. We've made it to the North Walk and we're going to head past the cathedral with the Royal School of Church Music on the other side, and this is ultimately going to lead us to our next gate, St Anne's Gate. It's another 14th century gate with a room above it that was once a chapel. From here it's a short walk along the walls that surround the cathedral precinct until we reach the Bishop's Gate. It's now the entrance to the Cathedral School. As we head along the walls, I should mention the Bishop's Gate is a later addition, dating from 1594. We're heading to the final gate and we're really just looping back on ourselves, as it will ultimately take us back to the cathedral. The final gate is the Harnham Gate, or South Gate, that allowed entry from the village of Harnham across the River Avon to the south. Again 14th century, and approaching you do feel as if you've stepped back in time. Once on the other side you've re-entered Cathedral Close. You only have to look at the Historic England site, or indeed Salisbury Close Preservation Society site, to understand the history here. And most of the homes, such as the Walton Cannery, built in 1720, replaced dwellings from much earlier. One of the ones I'm interested in is Arundel's, home of UK Prime Minister Ted Heath, but I will cover that in detail in a separate video. Another place of interest is the Rifles Berkshire and Wiltshire Museum, one to visit when we return, and I think we will return to Salisbury. Now normally I'd be saying our goodbyes at this point in the video, but I have one more memorial I want to show you, just under 1.5 miles from here, and it's a bit of a surprise. It's a secret Spitfires memorial that can be found next to Salisbury's Rugby Club, unveiled in 2021 to mark the 2,300 Supermarine Spitfires constructed in secret, in sheds, back gardens, anywhere they could, by a team of women, boys and those too old to fight, overseen by engineers, to ensure we maintained the upper hand in the battle for the skies. A little bit of Salisbury's more recent history. And now it's time to say au revoir. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and happy travels.